Due to ShowPro's aggressive copyright takedown policy, this re-upload will be audio only, with the fully edited version available to my patrons, link in the description below. It wouldn't be right to close out Pokemon Month without acknowledging a big part of the Pokemon movie experience, the Pikachu shorts. These shorts work great as a fun Pokemon experience before the more serious plots of the movies kick in, kinda like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon before a live-action movie. They also have a tradition of introducing new Pokemon that will appear in the upcoming generation, which was always a huge treat for me as a kid. Unfortunately, there are way more shorts than I had anticipated, even more than there are actual movies, and most of them haven't even been officially released outside of Japan, but I'll try to cover as many of them as I can. The first and easily most recognizable short is Pikachu's Vacation. Pikachu and the other Pokemon take a day-long vacation at a resort, but get into trouble with a group of other Pokemon that they meet there, and shenanigans ensue. This is probably the most creative of the shorts with just how many different ideas and scenarios it crams into a single episode. It even has some impressive animation to boot, and it's actually kinda sad that this short has better animation than any of the Hoenn or Sinnoh movies. It's fun, exciting, and has a great message about cooperation over conflict. Kinda sad that the best one happens to be the first, but that doesn't mean that the rest aren't worth checking out. In addition to the movie tie-ins, there were also 3 sets of winter vacation specials early on in the series, with each half-hour segment divided into 2 half-episodes. The first episode, Christmas Night, is basically just a few of the Pokemon clowning around while Ash, Misty, and Brock are out shopping, and yet the atmosphere of this special somehow manages to capture the entire spirit of the holiday season in a brief but entrancing 9 minutes. The manic excitement of Christmas parties, the warmth of holiday cheer, it's actually kinda shocking how enrapturing this special is. The soundtrack definitely had a lot to do with that as well, with how thick and melodic it is. This is a surprisingly good special, and I might even add it to my other traditional Christmas viewings. Kanga Games is just as simple in its story, with Pikachu and friends playing around in the snow with a baby Kangaskhan. This one is much more outright with its comedy, with some really strong gag humor and slapstick, like Psyduck making face prints in the snow and, well, this moment in particular. God damn it, Bulbasaur. The animation's kinda cheap overall, but it also kinda looks like they saved it up for this big sled chase at the end, and it's pretty exhilarating despite its limitations. Sometimes I forget how fun Pokemon can really be, and this special is a perfect example of that. Next is Pikachu's Rescue Adventure, in which Togepi runs off and gets lost in a forest full of Pokemon, and Pikachu and friends have to go save her. While not as creative as the first short, this one's still really fun and relaxing to watch, and it even has a lot of hidden details that you can find through multiple viewings. The animation can be a bit cheap, especially when they just copy-paste sprite assets into a given shot, but there's still a nice amount of hugeness to the overall presentation. Winter Games doesn't exactly start off on the right foot by having Chikorita be her usual bitchy self, though watching her try to murder the others with icicles was pretty fun in its own way. This one mostly relies on its slapstick humor, which is pretty solid, though the overall animation isn't that much better than a typical TV episode. Stantler's Little Helpers follows Pikachu and the gang as they search for berries to help Santa's Stantler recover from a fever. And the fact that this episode reminded me that Santa is canon to the Pokemon universe is just awesome. It's weird that this one also starts with Chikorita being an asshole, but it's fairly short-lived, and the adventure elements are pretty fun. The animation's still just kinda average, but there's some nice visual humor in there to keep things interesting. Never thought I'd see Pokemon save Christmas, but I'm glad I did. Then of course there's Pikachu and Pichu, which introduced us to the infamous Pichu brothers. What stood out to me the most with this short was actually the soundtrack, featuring very heavy jazz influence to match the big city setting in an almost Gershwin-esque manner. The Pichu brothers are a ton of fun, the chase scenes are creative and exciting, and it's just an all-around good time. Getting back to the winter shorts, Delibird's Dilemma has the gang helping a Delibird recover the presents it was carrying. This one's the first digitally animated short, and it has pretty much the same problems as other moments of early digital animation for Pokemon, though this one is surprisingly ambitious in its shot composition, so I can at least respect it for that. The actual present collecting isn't all that interesting though, so I don't really see myself coming back to it again later. Snorlax Snowman shows Pikachu and the others getting into crazy hijinks with a local Snorlax, and it's absolutely insane how fast this short can go from 0 to 100 with no warning. While that is entertaining in its own right, there's nothing really creative or interesting being done with the premise, so it's not exactly memorable aside from maybe one cool idea in the second half. The animation's definitely hit and miss, but unfortunately doesn't have the same ambition as the previous episode. Pikachu's Peekaboo is pretty memorable simply because of the sheer insanity of the situation. One minute the Pokemon are playing hide and seek, the next minute they're being chased down by a semi-sentient lawnmower with chainsaw hands. It's pretty intense and bizarre, but still enjoyable. The animation is incredibly expressive and free-moving, allowing for some really dynamic shots and cool Sakuga moments to keep the momentum constantly building as the chase gets more and more insane. Camp Pikachu definitely rolls with the introducing new Pokemon concept in some unique and interesting ways, and the Duskull segments got a lot of laughs out of me. Unfortunately, the short as a whole feels very cheap and not nearly as well animated as the previous ones, with a lot of very slow and lazy movement muddying up the quick pace of the comedy. Still, it does have the Pichu brothers in it again, and they always bring some good laughs, so it's at least worth watching. Then we have Gotta Dance, which is unfortunately the first really bad one. It's basically just one big forced musical number that's only gonna appeal to a very young audience. It does have a few nice touches here and there, like how Trico constantly tries to act cool and not dance, but otherwise it's just really lame, boring, and uninspired. The dance choreography is nice, but the rest of the animation has a lot of really cheap CG effects that don't hold up at all. This one's really not worth your time and was just a huge disappointment overall. And unfortunately, it gets even worse from there. Pikachu's Island Adventure is so bad that I couldn't even finish it. Hell, I couldn't even make it 5 minutes in. The narrator actually translates what all the Pokemon are saying, and it feels unbelievably childish and immature. Coupled with some terrible background art and uninteresting animation overall, I recommend avoiding this one entirely. Then we have Pikachu's Big Mysterious Adventure, and okay, you know what, I'm just gonna skip over all the ones where the narrator fucking translates everything because I shouldn't have to explain why that's a dumb idea. And it's equally bad in its delivery in both dubbed and subbed forms. I'm also skipping over the ones I couldn't find translated files for, though I highly doubt I'm missing anything good. Which puts us about halfway through Gen 5 with Meloetta's Moonlight Serenade. This one's another fetch quest story like the Winter Vacation specials, but there doesn't really seem to be much urgency to them finding Meloetta's lost berries because so much time passes between when the berries are lost and when they decide to start looking for them. The quest itself also feels a bit awkward and surreal because the obstacle ideas they come up with are so bizarre and out of place. Still, it's definitely a very well animated short, with crisp character artwork and extremely fluid animation and choreography. Plus, Meloetta's singing voice is pretty solid. It's not the best short, but still worth watching to some degree. After that is Eevee and Friends, which really doesn't have an actual story other than Pikachu and the others hanging out with all the different Eeveelutions. I like that they took the time to give all the Eeveelutions distinct personalities, and there's just a whole lot of fun to be had in this special. The animation is also really solid, though oddly divided into two halves, with the first half being dynamic and creative hand-drawn animation, and the second half being explosive and vibrant digital art. It's definitely the best short that's been made in a while, and I might even come back to it again in the future. Moving into the X and Y shorts, we have Pikachu What's This Key, which is basically an extended version of the bunch of doors that open up to weird places gag. I didn't know Klefki was an interdimensional being, but let's roll with it. This is definitely one of the more creative shorts, especially with the different worlds it constructs. It also has some really cool visual cues if you're paying enough attention, and the animation is just as strong as the best parts of the X and Y TV series. It does feel a bit cheesy in some spots, but overall it's definitely one of the better ones. To round it all off, we have Pikachu and the Pokemon Music Squad, an incredibly cheesy and childish yet also insanely fun musical romp. This is one of those moments where I know it's meant for a younger audience, but I can still enjoy it because everyone's just having a good time and it's just so much fun, though I'm not a huge fan of the narrator's intrusion into the story. It even has a couple nice homages to Pikachu's vacation, much like the other homages made throughout the TV series. The animation is vibrant, fluid, and timed perfectly to sync up to the catchy and upbeat song that the Pokemon sing throughout the special. Did I mention that it's just really fun? I really want you to know how much fun I had with this special. Also, the ED is by Little Glee Monster, so yeah. Pretty good final episode. Unsurprisingly, my preference for Pikachu shorts lines up pretty well with my thoughts on the anime as a whole, and I definitely encourage you to check out the ones that I've recommended. That's it for this video. Tomorrow we'll jump back into the X and Y films with Hoopa and the Clash of Ages, and don't forget to check out my other content while you wait. Special thanks to Jan Rogalski, Rourke Tinjoin, JJJ User, Kushina Minami, and all my other patrons for their generous support. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.